lights flicker in the studio glow. Voices echo where the mystics flow. Spirits whisper in digital air. Tune in now if you dare. Aliens talk through untold night. Conspiracies hidden from blinking sight. Secrets murmur like an old affair. Dive in deep if you care. Is it a time you became all aware? Unlock the truth if you really dare. With HB, let your mind declare the mysteries we share.
Pennsylvania State Constables, first in law enforcement since 1664.
See battle like your pride. Oh, hunter, this is how legends are born. 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 Hunter, the kill makes you stronger, nothing will. See battle like your pride. Oh, hunter, this is how legends are born. This is how legends are born.
Pennsylvania State Constables, your local elected law enforcement officers.
And welcome back to another episode of All Aware. I'm Nathan Roshan, and I got Tom Kregiel with me. He's a constable in the PA Constable Service there. And we're going to be talking today about his background. Maybe you aren't familiar with what the Constable Service is. There's a few states that still have those terms for their law enforcement officers, but most people know of police officer or peace officer or something like that. But a constable is actually an elected law enforcement official. They're in Texas, they're in PA, a few other Western states that I know of. So let's go ahead and bring him in now. He's here with me. So I'm going to bring in Timothy Kregiel. And we'll see if he can give us some information about what the PA Constable Service is, and we'll go from there. So, Tim, are you there?
I'm here, Nathan. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
Hey, yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming aboard All Aware today. Excited to interview you and kind of get a background from you on the PA Constable Service. So it looks like you are in your cruiser right there, aren't you?
I am. I'm actually traveling across the state. I'm in Blair County, coming from Philadelphia. There's a lot of activity out there, so I'm just on my way home.
Nice. Well, thank you for your service and safe travels. We have snow. I'm in Ohio right now. We've got snow coming in the forecast. Supposed to have that blizzard, and I'm sure it's coming your way too. So I bet you're preparing for that.
I'm trying. My wife told me hurry up and get home.
So, hey, Tim, can you tell me a little bit about your background? What got you into the constable service? And for those in PA and everyone in the country listening who's not sure what a constable really is, what is that? Can you tell us?
Sure. Pennsylvania State Constables are intertwined with Pennsylvania history itself, and as well as the history of the nation, to be honest. There's so much that happens in Philadelphia that influenced not only Pennsylvania, but the entire country. And law enforcement is one of those things. William Penn received the charter in 1681 from King George of England, and he came over and he landed in Chester, Pennsylvania, and Chester, Pennsylvania was the first capital for about 1 year, from 1681 to 1682, before Philadelphia was even founded. And then in 1682, at some point, Philadelphia was founded and became the capital. But whenever William Penn came over to Pennsylvania, he brought the English system, and the English system is magistrates, constables, and sheriffs. And so sheriffs are over a county. Constables are elected locally. I think originally they may have been appointed, but in Pennsylvania now, Pennsylvania state constables are elected for 6 years in their local jurisdiction, but they have statewide coverage. So I can go anywhere in the state with the same authority.
Nice. So what are your specific job duties and tasks in the constable service there?
Well, I run my office independently, so it's up to each constable how they run that particular office. It's also based on the needs of the community and the needs of potentially neighboring communities. For example, I was in Philadelphia, where there's a lot of need out there, and so the call goes out to see what Pennsylvania state constables might be interested in serving in that area. A lot of times we set up contracts. Pennsylvania state constables are at the core unpaid. It's the core functions of a constable are volunteer. There's no direct funding from tax revenue. So in order to fund the office and get equipment, things like that, we enter into contractual agreements with either municipalities or private entities. And that's actually what I was doing. And, that's how we buy the cars, the training, the gear, different things like that.
Sure. That makes sense. How long have you served as a constable there in PA?
3 years. I'm about the middle of my term. I have another 3 years to go. Before this, I did armed security.
Okay. And you said that they're elected. So you're the elected official, and then kind of like the sheriff's department, you're able to kind of deputize people to help in your department.
Right. That is correct. You asked about the functions, and I kind of detoured you on that because there's no blanket answer. It depends on each constable, how they run it. My particular neighborhood, I do patrols. It's not near as bad as it is in other parts of the state. So I do tend to go to areas that are in a greater need than my own, oftentimes. So that's what I do. I end up traveling quite a bit.
So you have state, as an elected official, you have state kind of jurisdiction where you can do that.
Right. I have statewide jurisdiction. That's correct.
Are you guys do you guys work with the courts mostly, or what are the duties that way?
Well, again, it's up to the needs of the community in each constable. There is no mandated functions other than if there's a crime that happens in my presence, I'm obligated to respond. It's no longer an option. Some people think when you become a police officer, you get greater authority. It's actually the opposite. You actually get less authority because there's more rules.
Yeah.
This the exact same thing a citizen would do, and it would be fine. I would be looked over very, very carefully for the exact same action. But as far as the courts, yeah, there's an opportunity there. It's not a mandated opportunity, but there is an opportunity to contract with the courts to pick up warrants and be compensated for that. That's correct.
Okay. I guess what are some things going on right now in PA that you think we need to know about, or that are probably underserved when it comes to the information about what you guys do and things like that? Is there anything you want to mention about that?
Sure. In Pennsylvania, it's nobody's job to pick up an arrest warrant. It could be anybody's job or nobody's job. It depends on what agency happens to pick that up or who's the most interested. A lot of warrants get picked up on traffic stops, but aside from the traffic stops and the random encounters, unless somebody's actually looking for that person, it's no one agency's job. It could be anybody. It could be a constable that makes that arrest, a sheriff, a local police officer, or a state trooper. And as far as authority goes, it's almost easier to reverse engineer, because other than the sheriffs, everybody in Pennsylvania is a constable. You have the elected constables, which are, I call the ELEs, the elected law enforcement constables. And then every other agency bases their authority in Pennsylvania off of the constables. So they're called ex officio constables or XOCs. So a municipal city police officer is actually an ex officio constable, as is a county detective and a state trooper.
And that's is that based on, because you guys are a commonwealth, right? So does it have something to do with the contract, or it's not really a contract, but the way the laws of the state were set up to it's more natural, more common law kind of deal rather than what has become of some of the other states, which, you know, have incorporated their governments or their municipalities, and then therefore they have, you know, you have a police officer in most jurisdictions, but a police officer is really almost like a policy officer that works for the corporation, which would be the police department, whatever city it is that's a municipality. It sounds like it's a little bit more kind of old school, which I like. Texas has constables as well. I knew some down there. But I guess that would be my question. Is it based on the rules and the regulations that found the state?
Exactly right. You said it when you said common law. It's based on common law. So William Penn comes here in Chester, Pennsylvania, and whatever he speaks is basically law at that point, because there's no, you know, he doesn't consider himself to be a governor. There's no legislature. So he's almost like the way that these colonies were set up, they're set up as corporations is the best way to look at it. And they appoint William Penn as the CEO of the Corporation of Pennsylvania. He's still somewhat answerable to the king, but he has a lot of leeway and leverage. So whatever he says, excuse me. So when he sets up the system of government, he sets up the constables, the sheriffs, and the magistrates, which is the common English system. It's typical everywhere that the English colonies were created. They used the exact same system. And so he sets this up pre-legislature, prior to any laws. So subsequent to his words in the common law, you would have to get a constitutional amendment in Pennsylvania to override a common law, basically a practice. And so you'll never find anywhere in Pennsylvania law where it says the constable was created. You won't find where the sheriff was created. Well, for that matter, you won't find where the governor is created. These are things that were just so obvious to the people that founded the state, they would have thought it was silly to write it down. Now, after that, moving forward, you know, sometimes there's legal challenges and you want to reach back and you must say, okay, where did this come from? Where's the basis? And the only answer you can come up with is common law. I had to go through this with the federal government. My agency is recognized by 4 federal agencies. When I got my .gov status for the website, they were asking me different questions. And apparently, I'm the first Pennsylvania constable to achieve that status. And they were saying, well, where does it say in the law that the constable is created? And I said, it's not. You can't find it. But it's referred to. It's understood. It's recognized, but it was never created. So we do have enemies. We can get into that. We'll take this conversation in a different direction if it's all right with you. But there are people that don't like the office, and the buzzword today is decentralization. It's actually the same buzzword that we heard in 1776. We're seeing a lot of similarities.
That's right.
And so, yeah, we're going back, and a lot of people understand this. And so we're going back to like a Great Awakening, or the Second Great Awakening, where we're going back to these buzzwords and we're saying decentralization again. And we're having to wake up the populace. We're having to educate the population, because the constable was kind of shoved under the rug. Now, they can't get rid of a constable. If they did, you'd lose almost every law enforcement agency in the state, because they're all ex officio constables. And the second thing is, you can't just write a law to override common law. You'd have to write a constitutional amendment. And so by doing that, they would actually be raising awareness of the issue that they're trying to keep quiet. And so the enemies of this concept are the bureaucrats, the people who like centralized control. They want to control everything. The reason that some of these agencies or some of these officials in power don't like the concept of the constables, because they can't control us. We're accountable to the people. That's right. Don't have a boss. We don't work for anybody. And it's possible, or even likely, the intention was, whenever we were unfunded, then nobody would want to do the job. And that has been largely true for the last 100 years. Nobody has mainly wanted to do the job because we didn't receive the funding. We're an unfunded agency or community funded. You know, you can say based on donations, but the constable tends to be the biggest donor in that scenario of his own agency, because he's the one who's passionate about it, understands it, knows what it is, tries to fulfill it and exert that office. But many cases, the people that even elected that constable don't even know what the constable is, or they'll just think, oh, that sounds good. Oh, you want to be a constable? Okay, that's fine. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to vote for it. Many of the constables got the position not knowing what it was. I mean, this is how deep this goes. It goes very, very deep. We find ourselves the people who just read the law, and that's the thing. There's so many people that don't want to just read the law. They want to see what their friends are doing. They want to look around. Oh, okay, which way's the crowd going? Yep. But why can't we just read the law? It's so simple, and it takes 10 minutes. But we're going to fight about this for hundreds of years. And they defund it, or not defund it. They refuse to fund it. So all these resources go to these other agencies. They get recognized. It's like a good old boys club to a certain extent with the judges and the DAs and the other agencies, because they're used to doing it. They're not used to seeing a constable going out there, putting on the uniform, getting the car, getting the training. And then they see one and they say, well, where did this guy come from? He came out of nowhere. We didn't even think anybody would want to do it. And you have to be very community oriented to want to do this in Pennsylvania right now. Yeah,
I could definitely see that. So I bet you're having, so are you having issues when you're conducting your elected position out there with other agencies, maybe not wanting to back you up, or you show up to something and you know, they're like, what are you doing here, kind of thing? Is there any kind of quarrels that way with just because of their ignorance or their uneducated, status with what's going on? Do you have problems with that?
Yes, actually, and this is the reason I reached out to you to get to this point, to raise awareness to the public so that they know what's going on, because I really feel that once the public in Pennsylvania really knows the full story and what's happening, they're probably going to be outraged. Because yep. I can tell you my own experience, and I can tell you a lot of experiences of others, but me personally, I filed a search warrant in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, where I reside. And I went to the president judge's office and I said, I have a search warrant. And they looked at me like I had 4 heads, and they didn't know what to do with me. So they sent me down to the district attorney's office and they said, well, we like to run everything through them so that they can kind of, see what's going on and kind of pave the way. And that might have been another way of saying, if they approve, then we'll approve. But if they don't, we won't. So I went down and I'm throwing out names tonight. So I went down and I talked to my assistant district attorney, Lazar, and I spoke with him about the situation. I said, I just left the president judge's office. I have the search warrant. He says that it's easier for his office to go through your office. So here's the search warrant. And what the assistant district attorney said is, well, we have understandings. And I said, yeah, but I thought we had laws. I didn't know. And this should be a concern for everybody in Westmoreland County who has cases tried by assistant district attorney Lazar, that they may want to evaluate where his priorities are. Because if he is trying cases based on understandings and not laws, then that seems like that's an ethical issue to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. That doesn't sound kosher, if you want to say that. So yeah, what do you do with that? How do you overcome that? Like, what are your steps?
So in this particular case, the search warrant went back up to the president judge's office, and the president judge says they can, they have the authority to sign or not sign, whatever they want to do. But I got a phone call from the president judge's office of Westmoreland County saying that the judge looked at it and doesn't think that he has the authority to sign a search warrant in Westmoreland County. However, there are other search warrants that have been signed. So that is very confusing. So now we have a president judge that doesn't know he's a president judge. And it's a lot easier to understand that people don't know what a constable is,
Right.
if you have a sitting judge that doesn't know what a sitting judge is, and then it
Right.
makes more sense when you look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you go from there?
Well, in that case, the search warrant just doesn't get signed. We have a system, and this is the way that the system works. You have to get search warrants signed by judges. So if they don't
Right.
sign, they don't. Then the investigation goes nowhere, and that's exactly where that investigation went. And I'm still not going to comment on it, even though I didn't get the search warrant, because in my estimation, it could still potentially be an open investigation.
Sure. But so you're getting, you're getting pushback from those who are supposed to be allowing you to do your job. Uh, so there's potentially things going on out there that down the road could lead to bigger things because you're not able to conduct the searches and the services that you are elected to do.
Potentially. And when you really look at it, what does that mean? That sounds like election interference, because the vote of my people was now negated, because they elected me to do a job, whether they knew it or not. They still elected me to do a specific job that is governed by Pennsylvania law, common law, and the Constitution. And when agencies interfere, what they're doing is they're making those votes not count. The people that voted for me, those votes are no longer counting. And that's the terminology, and that's exactly how we want people in Pennsylvania to see this and understand this, because that's exactly what's happening.
So your election is on, just so people outside of PA maybe understand, the constable, is that elected on a standard, like a local ballot, a county ballot, or is that a state issue?
Pennsylvania was completely decentralized, so that Pennsylvania is the blueprint for the country, and you have to keep that in mind. So it was
Gotcha.
completely decentralized. Each and every election poll represents, like that poll, whatever jurisdiction that poll is, represents a constabulary, and there's a constable that's over each and every poll throughout the state. So potentially around 6,000 constable offices throughout the state.
Are any other ones having the same kind of issues in other jurisdictions?
Yeah, there's get even weirder, actually, to be honest, because they get pulled over for using red and blue lights on occasion, which is hilarious in my opinion, but not so hilarious for the constables that experience the lawfare, because they have to put up thousands of dollars to defend themselves, and obviously they win in the end.
Yeah.
But what happens is they push them to a level to where they hope that they bleed out financially, and they just buckle and give in. And some
Wow.
constables some constables have not. It just depends on the fortitude of the constable. Right now, probably the biggest qualification or desirable trait that you'd want to have in a Pennsylvania constable would be fortitude and love of the law and love of the Constitution. Because if you
Absolutely.
have those things, you're going to do your job whether people like it or not. Unfortunately, is the way that you have to say it. Not that we're being rude or disruptive or anything like that, but when it comes down to somebody, when the law says this is how it is, and somebody says no, it's not, well, the law has to win out, because we have to be a nation and a state that's governed by laws.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree. And and you probably agree too. That's a major problem that we're having right now is to go back what you said earlier, is people are not reading the law. And when I say people, I don't just mean, civilians or those of us out in the regular world, but those who are involved directly in law are not really reading the law. They are reading interpretations of the law. They are interpreting certain aspects of the law, and they are wanting to change laws that necessarily don't need to be changed. They just need to be enforced the way that they were originally intended to. And so, yeah, that to blow that up to a more national issue, I think what you're explaining right here is a problem we're having nationwide, and not recognizing things like the constable service in PA, and like you said, the framework of the nation came from PA. That's a problem. But I wouldn't want to ask, so how do you see in your current situation where you're at, what do you see in the future holding right now with everything that's going on. There's two sides of things happening, and we can see some good stuff and bad stuff. What are you seeing?
You mean on a national level, or do you mean with Pennsylvania Constables?
Let's start with PA Constables, and I mean, if you want to talk national, that's cool too.
Okay, because they do overlap, I believe. I think what my story could potentially be everybody's story, but just a different version. And I think that what's happening in Pennsylvania and with the constables is a microcosm of what's happening nationally. Anybody that's happened to read the news in the last 4 years might be able to relate to my story on a different level. I'm not the only elected official that has been attacked with lawfare, and a lot of things that are happening right now on the national news seem to be also occurring in smaller pockets throughout, and in different versions throughout the country. And Pennsylvania is one of them. We're seeing, whether you call it the deep state or cabal or bureaucracy or the system or the establishment, whatever word you prefer, this type of entrenchment is encroaching on not only the laws, but the rights of the people. And this is just the culture shift that we're feeling and experiencing in general. And a lot of people are catching up. They're not quite on the bandwagon yet, but I think more and more people are feeling it and sensing it, that we're going to go back. We are going to be a constitutional republic once again. And what do I see in Pennsylvania? I see that reverberating. Eventually, it's going to trickle down, and it's going to affect Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania Constables, the entire law enforcement system. When I say Pennsylvania Constables, that is the entire law enforcement system. That's what it's all hinged on. It's not a side note or a back burner. That's the entire framework and structure that everything else hangs on. So that's why this is so important. It's the whole system that's at stake, the whole thing that was set up to decentralize, to put the power back in the hands of the people. Because when the people elect the constables, everybody in that community getting together and making a decision saying, yep, that's the one that we want to do this particular job. But if you hire a police chief or a police officer in your city, they have to put on nice clothes and submit a resume and go in and talk to maybe one person or maybe three people at a lot of times, and just that 1 to 3 people make that decision. Nobody else gets any input. See, this is exactly how the system is set up, to put the power back in the hands of the people.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. And when you get to those other agencies, they feel that they don't have to listen to the people. So I've noticed that a lot in previous jobs. I was in law enforcement right out of college. So I saw some of that in the small town that I worked in, where it was all about politics. And that's a lot of times why people get out of law enforcement, is because of the politics. It becomes more of not being there for the people, which is what most of us get into that line of work to do, is because we're just have a knack, right, to deal with situations that other people can't and get in the middle of stuff. And I could definitely relate to you there, saying that is how it happens. I know I have a lot of law enforcement friends in both sheriff's departments and in police departments, which again, like we were saying, are actually different types of law enforcement. Sheriff is elected. And I think, to kind of add on what you're saying, to help people understand, like a sheriff's department, if you need elected law enforcement officials, if they're not elected, then they don't represent you. Is that right?
That's my point exactly, because people should have the right to run their communities, how they see fit and how they want the law enforced. And the nice thing about a Pennsylvania State Constable is you could elect your neighbor, you could elect your cousin.
That's right.
The thing about elected positions you have to keep in mind is there's minimal requirements or no requirements. Look at the qualifications for the President of the United States. How many years of college does he have to have, and how many degrees? He has none. He doesn't have that. He has it's a trust position.
Age requirement, yeah.
Well, age requirement, yeah. It's a trust position. It's a confidence position. It's based on what the people's will is and what they want. The same thing, United States Supreme Court. You don't even have to have a law degree to be on the United States Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the nation.
Right.
But it's a trust position again. Well, it's based on the trust of the president. You elect the president, hope that he made the right decision, but it's still rooted somewhere in an elected authority, and that's the point. If you like we said with these other agencies and different things, they run them like businesses and corporations where there's just one guy at the top telling everybody else what to do, and that's not the way that the government was intended. It's intended to be decentralized, put the people back in authority, which is another buzzword or another buzz phrase we're hearing right now to go along with decentralization, putting the power back in the hands of the people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we the people, right? That's what the Constitution says, and that's a buzzword too, but it's true, man. We the people, right? Um, I guess if I could pivot a little bit, I just was wondering what maybe your thoughts are on, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But maybe what your thoughts are, because Butler, PA, we had the incident out there, and there seemed to be, when I was looking at different avenues of the response to law enforcement, it seemed like there was some issues with local law enforcement versus the federal level law enforcement. Was the constable service anywhere within that, or what would your thoughts be?
I can honestly say I'm not aware of any constable involvement or lack thereof whatsoever. I personally had plans to attend, and there was something else that I had to do. There was another duty that I had to attend to officially, so I wasn't there. I don't know if it's good or bad that I wasn't there. I keep having this feeling that if I was there, I would have been involved some way. Whether that have been good or bad, I don't know, but I feel like I would have been involved, especially if I saw something. That would have been difficult to unsee for me.
Yeah. It just kind of adds to what you're saying about kind of PA's history, though, is if you think critically about it, that happening there in your state, I don't think that's just coincidence. I think there's something, and we don't have to, I mean, who knows what that might be, but obviously PA has a big say in a lot of things that are going to be coming up forward, maybe the framework and things like that you were speaking about.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Maybe, I think I can't deny that God has his hands in different ways. I couldn't begin to tell you in what way, but it possibly could be intentional. I don't know.
Yeah.
To shed light on some of these other issues.
Yeah, exactly. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but public perception of you. What kind of feedback are you getting from your elected electors, I should say?
Well, when I first became constable, I went door to door with some business cards and just let people know in my neighborhood that I was here and that I was available, and give them a way to contact me. I've since built the website, the .gov website, and put that out there for the community. I started a True Social page, which has a lot of great information, but the problem is that a lot of people in my community weren't participating in that particular media outlet. So I wasn't able to get a lot of local interaction. I got a lot of great other interactions, but direct interaction with my community, I haven't been able to really capitalize on that yet. Like I said, I've let them know that I'm there. I put cards out. I started a Rumble channel. I did everything possible, but it's going to take more than just me telling them. It's going to take raising the state awareness in general, and so I find myself turning my attention to the rest of the state and educating the entire state in general, and I do that by letting other communities know that I would be open to do a town hall. I've done a town hall in my community. I would be willing to do another town hall anywhere in the state. And I talk with other constables. Sometimes I get multiple phone calls in one day, different constables telling me about what happened in their state and what's going on. Sometimes they ask me for advice. Sometimes I ask them for advice. But we're trying to build a network across the state of education. Doing these podcasts, I feel, is important. I was telling my wife that between the different podcasts I've done, the business cards, if I go out to Philadelphia, it's crazy. I'll get the question almost every day, what's a state constable? Because they just don't see a lot out there. It's such a big place. But I potentially could have affected or educated a couple thousand people broadly across the state. That's still not enough impact. But once it reaches a critical level, I think it's going to come back to my community.
Yeah. What kind of things could we do to help kind of spread the word here for you too?
In Pennsylvania, it's always education.
Yeah.
The people that educate themselves are always the stickers, the people that really dig in and get it for themselves. I've noticed that with constables too, themselves. The new constables that come on, the ones that are asking the questions, the ones that are digging in and getting into the law and reading it for themselves, those are great. But what can we do? We just keep having these podcasts. There's going to be something special coming out potentially on national television, but I'm not allowed to say anything else. Just keep watching TV.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, man. What if anybody wants to contact you to get any information, if they have any questions, are they able to do that? And how would they get a hold of you that way?
Sure. Can I leave my website?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The website for my agency it's really long. Trust me, I didn't pick it. The federal government said, look, if you want the website, it's going to have to be long and ridiculous. So this is one of the requirements. So it's www.PA Constable4.gov. Had to think to make sure I had that right. www.PA Constable number 4.gov. My email address is constable@PAConstable4.gov. And people can contact me directly, especially the people in Pennsylvania. I know that you have listeners all over the place, but even most particularly the ones in Pennsylvania, I would love to hear from them, whether they're other law enforcement agencies, whether they're citizens. We're not at war with any law enforcement agencies. We want to foster cooperation all the way across the state. We just want to build this education network, and we want the system to work the way it was intended.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll put your website and email down here at the bottom too, so people can see it, so they or they can pause it or whatever and write it down since it's so long. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I can't think of anything else. It's been a great discussion. I was really thankful that you gave me another outlet to educate people and get the word out. And hopefully the story could potentially inspire people from other states that don't have the exact same problem. But I would encourage everybody in every community across the nation to get involved locally, find out what you can do, this is the Steve Bannon model, by the way. Find out how to become the dog catcher, sit on the school board, take back every part of your lives, back every part of your communities, serve in any way that you potentially can, and just realize that you're building your own community. This community is your community.
That's right. That's right, Tim. And hey, I'd love to have you back on here in a few months after some other things happen here in our nation, and talk about things then.
That sounds fantastic. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate it.
All right, Timothy. Take care, sir. And for everybody else that was watching, thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of All Aware. I'm your host, Nathan Roshan, and you are All Aware. Good night, everybody.
We are the rulers of our own time. This is our life, building a new world. We banish the dark. We are the rulers of our own time. This is our life. We're in a new world. We are the rulers. Brace for the countdown. Change has arrived. The light's taking over the night. We fought and we conquered. Together we rise, together we fall.
Do you like All Aware Podcast with Nathan Roshan and want to keep up with new episodes? Like and subscribe on these popular platforms. YouTube.com/AllAwarePodcast, Rumble.com/AllAwarePodcast, Facebook.com/AllAwarePodcast, X.com/AllAwareShow, Podcast.apple.com/AllAwarePodcast, and anywhere else you watch or listen to alternative media. For more information about the show, visit us online at allawarepodcast.com.